Well, it's a Victory Friday edition of the fifth quarter as we welcome everyone to our three Browns coverage. I'm Dave DeNatale along with Jay Crawford. Browns with the 17-14 win on Thursday Night Football over the Denver Broncos. As we begin, Jay, your top line thoughts on a game the Browns, you said Monday, we talked about this, it's about as must win as you can get in week 7, and the Browns responded.
Yeah, they did. It's a clutch win. It's a character win. This was a win where the mettle of their character was going to be tested this football game. Obviously, all of the injuries that had piled up for this team, the two-game losing streak, they're 3-3. They're in last place with the Steelers. This was all about testing the internal fortitude of this team. What are they made of? And I believe that they passed the test. It wasn't a resounding win. It wasn't exactly pretty. They did just enough to eke out a win. And in the NFL, we've said it a million times here, you never apologize for that. You take the dub, you get ready for the next one. And fortunately for the Browns, their next one now is 10 days away as they got the Steelers coming to First Energy on Halloween. My biggest takeaway is this football team, I already thought with Chubb and Hunt, had the best duo of running backs in the NFL. I say now that they have the best triumvirate of running backs.
Yes.
D'Ernest Johnson just blew my doors off. I knew he was a good player. I've always liked his ability to slash and cut and move at full speed. He just really, really blew me away yesterday. And I, quite honestly, without D'Ernest, I'm not sure this is a victory. That last drive, he had 3 first down runs that moved the sticks, kept the clock going, and was the difference of the game. And I can't stress enough how impressed I was with 2 things that he did. One of the plays, he's getting near the sidelines, he goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Later, as he breaks free and gets that last first down that would have salted it, there ended up being a penalty on the play. He could have gone into the end zone. He fell.
Yep.
He's well coached. He takes that coaching. And I think there were a lot of positives that you can take away from last night. But for me, D'Ernest Johnson and the depth this team has at running back, first on the list.
Yeah, and we'll get to game balls, if you will, the touchdowns from the Browns win. But just one more thought on Johnson. I as I was watching the game last night, I'm like, the Browns, with Kevin Stefanski's wide zone offense and the offensive line that's almost complete. God, having Jed Wills healthy, what a difference that makes.
Yep.
So you have things that lend itself to being able to run the football well. That said, the scenarios you just laid out about D'Ernest Johnson, his vision, his cuts, those are things that aren't a part of those attributes and those advantages. You've got to still be able to do that as a running back. And that's why it's important to not just blow it off and say, well, it's just because of the system, or Chubb could have had 250 yards if he'd been playing. What he did last night, Johnson, was still pretty special.
Well, it was special. And he said something, they talked to him during the broadcast about the fact that Stump Mitchell has told them, you're a good player, or you wouldn't be on this team. You do what we need. So this is what I've talked a lot on this podcast about, how the Steelers have a blueprint, and they have for 50 years, and they've got a lot of rings because of that. So when you have a blueprint, what you do is you go out and you find the pieces that fit your machine. Okay. Mm-hmm. Every machine is different, and not every part is going to fit every machine. But when you're the Steelers and you're the Patriots and you're these blue blood organizations that don't seem to go through the low end of the talent cycle, you know what you need, you know what your system is, and now you just go out and you find guys that fit that system. It might not be the best overall player at that position, and you will have teams that look at your draft picks and say, wow, they drafted this guy when this guy was available. It's about finding the right fit for your machine. And right now, the Browns in that zone offense, that zone blocking scheme, they know the kind of running back they need, and they've got 3 of them. They may have more. I don't know. But we know that they've got 3 that will work with this machine. So you might put him in another offense, and he might have 22 carries for 48 yards. And he's not always going to have 146 yards rushing. But what it speaks to is what you said. They have a defined system, one they believe in, one that works, and they have players that can exploit the defense's weakness against that system. I'm really, really impressed with what the Browns have done with this offensive line. Obviously, we've talked at length about Bill Callahan and what he's meant to this football team. But when you watch a third string back come into the spotlight and draw a praise tweet from LeBron James, it basically tells you that Callahan's got a great system. Stump Mitchell's running backs work with that system. And it was a thing of beauty to watch because they did exactly what they needed to do. They came out and they got the W. You know, you didn't need Case Keenum to throw it all over the place. And that's why I've said all along, Baker can work in this offense. You don't need a quarterback that can throw for 450. You need a quarterback that can complete the short, quick passes, take care of the football, not give it away in critical spots, and just keep the chains moving. And Case did that, and you get the W.
Yeah, so we talk about what worked, the touchdowns, what were effective. Obviously, Dearness Johnson, we just laid that out for everybody. What else in your mind stood out last night, positives for the Browns in the win and things that you can take forward?
Well, the first half defense worked for sure. I thought the halftime adjustment award goes to a guy that we probably don't want to give a lot of praise to because he used to coach the Cleveland Browns, but Pat Shurmur out-schemed the Browns defense at halftime. He made the proper adjustments, and their drive chart in the first half was abysmal. There were 3 3-and-outs, and there was a 6-play drive that ended with an interception in the end zone. They had I think 2 first downs was all they managed. You know, they really, really were struggling. They were 0 for 4 on third downs. They were struggling moving the ball, and there's no question that the Browns won that first half with their great defense. But honestly, in the second half, it was a much different story. They had 2 drives that if you're grading the defense on those drives, the defense grades would be D- or F because they were everything you don't want a drive to be. They were 75 and 79 yards. The first one consumed over 7.5 minutes, I believe. The second one was 6.5 minutes, only quicker because they needed it to be. We couldn't get them off the field. And so just based on the first half play, the defense was a touchdown. I thought the special teams were a touchdown. I know we had a kick block, but I thought since Jamie Gillam's been placed on double secret probation by Kevin Stefanski and essentially told, shape up or ship out, his game has been what we expected it to be, what it was when he first came on with the Browns. So he's sort of dialed in and become more focused. He hit a couple of booming punts. I thought the coverage was great. Again, I know that McLaughlin had the kick blocked, but he kicked a 52-yarder in a crazy win. When they came out to try that, I thought, I don't think you're going to make anything over 45 tonight. He made it, and the block was his first miss. So again, special teams is a highlight. But really, I think the biggest touchdown for me was the fact that they flexed their muscle with their depth. Jedrick Wills was back, but you had to go with the backup on the other side. The wide receivers, they were on the field and they're healthy, but are they really healthy? So I just think that everybody did exactly what they needed to do. They pulled together coming off a short week and a load of injuries and 2-game losing streak, and they did enough to win. It'll quiet the critics for a while, but 10 days from now when Pittsburgh comes in, hopefully some of these little injuries are cleaned up. We get Hunt back, or we get Chubb back. I think Hunt still has to miss another game, right? Because he went on IR, so he's got to sit 3.
Exactly.
Hopefully we get Chubb back. Hopefully, OBJ played in the first half like he wanted to be traded. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm glad you brought that up because it was funny. 3 former Browns people were tweeting last night, had observations. Michael Lombardi, and they're not popular guys, at least 2. Michael Lombardi, Joe Banner, and Robert Griffin III. Griffin saying, look, the Browns have to trade him. Michael Lombardi saying, look, he's so, OBJ is so worn down his legs that he can't catch the ball anymore. it's becoming noticeable now to everybody that there's a problem. Is it a big problem? I don't know.
I don't either. And I don't know if you can trade him. I don't think you can. I think if he was movable, he would have been moved by now. Again, on a critical third down pass, it's in his hands. It's a catchable ball. He drops it. I've also noticed that he has a tendency to catch the ball and fall wherever he is, almost like he doesn't want to take that hit. It's understandable. He's got a badly dinged shoulder. I get that. I just don't know. At this point, I'm starting to question what's left for him after these injuries. Is the mindset where it needs to be? And honestly, he's just playing like a guy that doesn't want to be there. And I don't know if he's trying to get himself traded. I don't know if he's not happy in Cleveland. He hasn't spouted off like some thought he might. I just don't know. I still think he can be a contributing member to this football team, but right now he's a big question mark, and I don't know that you can trade him. You would take a big hit to trade him right now because his value, I don't know what his value is. It certainly isn't what the Browns are paying him. So you want to try to find a trade partner that will offset that salary and give you something in exchange, but I just don't know. I don't know how workable that is.
Before we get to the 2-minute drill and kind of look ahead to the next 10 days, your thoughts on what we found out right when the game started last night from Jay Glazer, that not only is Baker Mayfield dealing with a torn labrum, and I know you've dealt with shoulder injuries, but there's also a fracture in that left shoulder, and it's making it more problematic for Baker because that fracture, he said, it's got to heal if he's going to be able to play. And so, who knows? I mean, Baker could be back in 10 days, or Baker could be back in 4 weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, you're right. And the Browns don't need him against Denver, but they're going to need him a lot more against Pittsburgh. Okay. Yeah. Now, the big question here isn't so much Baker's shoulder. We know what that is. We know even more now what that is. The big question is, does Kevin Stefanski and the Browns brass have enough faith in Case Keenum to put him out there in a real big game against a notable opponent? And we'll find out. Based on what I saw last night, yeah, I trust him. I do. Yeah. He gets the ball out of his hand quick, which is imperative right now.
Yeah.
He didn't, this is not a complicated offense to run. It's just not. You don't see this team taking vertical shots. They don't do it. Everything is 1, 2, 3, out. Quick drops, out. Tight ends. That's why we carry 3 tight ends. That's why we have 3 of them that can play football at a very high level. We need them. You don't. And that's in part why OBJ isn't shining in this offense. It's not a take your chance, deep threat, vertical offense. Now, it could be, because with the running game that we have, I think it sets up beautifully for play fakes and to take vertical shots. I don't know how the Browns feel in terms of comfort level with Case doing that. Baker's been pretty good at that, in my view.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that, they're going to have to look at what Pittsburgh likes to do defensively. You've got a serious pass rush. Watt's going to be coming hot on most throwing downs. So it's going to be up to the coaching staff. I will say that I'm not at all surprised that there was more going on with that shoulder. You saw the hit. You saw it get completely bent out of shape. And then, it wasn't a good look. And oftentimes, I know when I tore my rotator cuff, I also tore my biceps tendon, and there was bone bruising. It wasn't a bone fracture, but I was actually, I made mine worse by pitching through it, and it was my throwing shoulder. So the torn bicep was a byproduct of the torn labrum that came as a result of it. I was overtaxing my bicep because my labrum was torn. The good news for Baker is he's not throwing with that shoulder. If it was his throwing shoulder, he would be shut down.
Yes,
he would absolutely be shut down.
Agreed.
But because it's not, they're trying to figure out how that impacts his game. Can he still play with it? My guess is Baker's going to want to be out there in 10 days. I mean, he wanted to be out there last night. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it's a situation where they activate Baker. They let Case go the first half, see what happens. If things are going okay, maybe he finishes the game. Maybe he comes out there at halftime. He's not playing well. Maybe they go to Baker at that point. We'll find out.
Last thing here as we finish up the show. In addition to watching injuries, the Browns are going to be off for 10 days. We'll see, obviously, who comes back and who doesn't. What do you look for now? This is not a bye week, but it's the closest thing until we get to the bye week. So are you watching the other teams in the division over the next 10 days? Kind of gauge Jay Crawford's football acumen over the next 10 days, what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, obviously, I think the Bengals-Ravens game is the biggest game for any team in the division upcoming because we're finally getting into that portion of the schedule. Are the Bengals for real? The Ravens, I don't want to call them fool's gold because I don't think they are. But at 5-1, I count the Lions game as a loss. I'm sorry. They're 4-2 in my eyes. They lost that football game. End of discussion. End of discussion. There was a penalty that was not called on the Ravens on the play prior to the record-setting 67-yard field goal. It was delay of game. And it wasn't just a millisecond delay of game. It was a 2-second missed call. That puts them back now where they have to try a 72-yard field goal. They're not going to do that. They're going to run a Hail Mary. The odds of we thought the odds of a Hail Mary would be higher than the odds of completing a 67-yard field goal. But with their kicker, he's the only guy in the game that can probably do it. That's a loss for me. So in my eyes, they're 4-2. And they also won another game that easily could have been a loss.
Right.
So I don't know if the Ravens are 5-1. They're between 3-3 and 4-2 for me. I think the Bengals have beaten up on some bad teams. We're going to find out where both of those stand after this game. So you just everybody's got to hold on because until you get through some divisional games, it's all a guess. You don't know. I do think that the Browns at the end will still contend for this division, provided we get healthy and Baker can play. If they do, I think they can be. I still think they can be an 11-6, somewhere between 12-5 and 10-7. That's where I have this football team finishing if they can get healthy and stay healthy. So far, they haven't been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I know, we watched. Have we heard anything on the Jarvis Landry knee or the Denzel Ward hamstring?
As we tape this, Kevin Stefanski's just starting. So everybody get to WKYC.com and Ben Axelrod will keep you updated throughout the afternoon. And Jay will be with you at 5:00 on What's New to talk more about the Browns and everything else going on. My friend, thanks for doing this on a Friday, on a Victory Friday, and enjoy your weekend, my friend.
You too, Dino. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to Three Browns, the fifth quarter, right here on WKYC.com.